Good evening, everyone, and thank you for watching NBC6 Voices on our Facebook and YouTube pages. I'm Jawan Strader. Well, the NFL has been the topic of many controversial conversations over the years concerning racism and outdated practices. On October 20th, the NFL agreed to end race-based brain testing in a $1 billion settlement on concussions. Now, protocols to qualify for the NFL settlement included something called race norming, where players' cognitive test scores were adjusted based on age, education, and race, leaving many black players without compensation. Former NFL player Sean Wooden has become an advocate in the legal battle to secure compensation for retired players. He works to protect those who have any severe illnesses due to injuries sustained while playing football and those that may develop severe illnesses in the future. The former safety spent 9 years in the league playing for the Miami Dolphins and the Chicago Bears. He's a graduate, of course, of the Irish, Notre Dame. Please welcome Sean to the show. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Juwan. Thanks for having me.
That's great, Sean. Thank you so much for joining me. Well, what do you think about the NFL finally agreeing to end race-based brain testing in that $1 billion settlement on concussions? What do you think about it?
I think that like you said, this has been a long fight. 4 years ago, we made a settlement with the NFL. The owners decided, that they would basically have an unlimited amount of dollars set aside for the next 65 years of players, ones that are, like you say, symptomatic, the ones that are, having, the symptoms of TBI and traumatic brain injury, cognitive issues, and then those who might develop it in the future. So, I think that the NFL was at the forefront at that point in time of acknowledging that concussions were an injury versus being just getting dinged up or being hurt. Now they're stepping up and being at the forefront of making sure that they're taking race norming out of the medical journals or the medical practices that are practiced throughout the United States today.
Now, Sean, you've been involved for years. I've known you for a long time. And from the very beginning, you've been very vocal and you've been an advocate for the players when it comes to concussions. Why is it that you decided to get so involved?
I think I was tricked into it at first. I didn't realize, as big as the apple I was taking a bite of. Didn't realize, going through and going to the, federal courtrooms and going through the concussion case for, several years, even before the settlement. But I just truly believe these are my brothers. If you played with me, if you played the game, if I played against you, we're still part of this small fraternity of individuals that were very blessed. Not saying that we deserve it, but we were very blessed to have the ability to be able to play in the NFL. But I do believe that we need to be taken care of because it's a rough game. It's a tough game. It's tough on the body. It's tough on the mind. And there was a lot of sacrifices and guys need to be taken care of.
And let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the examining, the race norming, because I never knew that this even existed until the NFL, some of the retired players kept talking more and more about it. Did you know about this race norming test?
And Joanne, I'll tell you this, like I said, I was involved through the concussion case throughout the whole thing. And when we had the settlement wasn't perfect. But it was going to take care of, several thousands of players, former players that played the game. And I didn't hear about race norming until I saw it on Twitter one day when somebody attacked me in regards to, me agreeing to the settlement, me putting my name on the lawsuit. And basically, just going after me about the whole race norming. I even had to look it up.
They were blaming you. Some players were actually blaming you, thinking that you knew all about this and that you were part of this agreement with the doctors and everything else to go
with the doctors, with the NFL owners, and with our lead attorney Chris Seeger. It hit all of us by surprise. But once I got to learn more about it, there's some research on it. I was in discussions with Chris Seeger, who's the lead attorney for our side, the plaintiff side of the case. And we discussed it, and we believe that, it needed to be taken care of. This was general practice in the United States. It's not like it was just this case. This is general practice throughout the United States. That's why I say that we're at the forefront of changing the way people view race in medicine. So, it's one of those things that, in today's society, we have to you have to make noise in order to be able to create change. And that's something that we're doing through this concussion case and through the settlement.
And what about you personally, Sean, as a former player? Have you had to deal with some concussions yourself and illness, like as far as injuries are
I was,
concerned? I mean,
I was very fortunate. Yes, I was injured. You can ask Wale and all the guys that played with me. I was in the training room quite a bit. Suffered some concussions, but luckily, right now I'm not suffering any symptoms of traumatic brain injury or CTE or any cognitive issues. I mean, if you ask my wife or my kids, they might say something different. But just joking around. I am getting a little bit older. I haven't caught your age yet, but I'm getting a little bit older, so I might forget where my keys are, where I put the keys, or something like that. But no, it's to be serious about it. No, I'm very fortunate to be one of the ones that was able to play 9 years in a brutal sport and come away unscathed. But like I said, this concussion case, the beauty about the settlement is that it covered people for the next 65 years. So we're 4 years into it, so we have 61 more years. That heaven forbid something happens to anybody, or they come down with some symptoms and they start having cognitive issues, they will be covered by this.
what about those players though that were denied because of the race-based norming that was going on? What about those players? What do you have to say to those retired players who were denied because of it?
Well, first I'm gonna say I'm sorry that you had to go through this. I would never want that on anybody, especially like I said, my brothers in the fraternity that I belong to. But second is, what I'm reading and what the judge has to approve still is that these guys will be reassessed, that they're going to be rescored. So they're going to go back, take the race norming out, and score these guys again. And I tell every player out there that if you've been denied, make sure you appeal, make sure you go back, make sure you keep trying, don't give up, because unfortunately that's something that us as human beings will do. Sometimes you just give up because you're tired of fighting. Trust me, guys, I know that what you're going through, and keep fighting, keep trying, and hopefully you'll get the benefits that you deserve.
And my last question for you, Sean, is that what do you want younger players out there to know that are about to enter the league or that aspire to enter the league?
Oh, I mean, I enjoyed my 9 years. I had a blast. I had a ball. But make sure you take care of yourself. Make sure you look after yourself, and you have your best interest. That's the one thing is you might think that everybody else has. You have your best interest, and make sure that you take care of yourself and you put yourself in the position to be able to have a fruitful, long career, but also that you come away from the game healthy.
Sean, thank you as always, my brother. I've been trying to get you on the show for a minute, so it's good to have you on and hear your insight. And I really appreciate you. And hopefully, this is not the last time you come on the show.
Oh, anytime you need me, brother, I'm here.
You got it, my brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Well, moving on now, another recent controversial topic of discussion is the email scandal surrounding John Gruden. You may remember the former Raiders coach was locked into a nearly $100 million deal with the team until his resignation after the New York Times detailed emails in which he made homophobic and misogynistic remarks following an earlier report of racist statements about a union leader, according to the New York Times. So let's bring in former NFL defensive end Wale Ogunleye and Roy Barker to weigh in on the controversy. Welcome to the show, Wale and Roy. I appreciate you.
How you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Just so you know, both of these, you may recognize Wale. He's been on the show a few times, and Roy, both of them played years in the league. And so I want to hear from you in regards, first off, to our last conversation, because you heard it there with Sean Wooden when it comes to the race-based test that was being done, the brain testing. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll start. I think, from my perspective, it's really disheartening in the sense that, you leave it to these experts, whether they're lawyers or doctors, to look out for our best interest. And it was a surprise to me to know that this, race norming was applied to our cases. And again, being a former player and being proud to have played in the NFL, it's just another smear on the league that we played on. And you hear the horror stories of people saying that this league really could care less about its players, especially that when it comes to the black players that make up the league that have made this league so popular in America. and you tend to go like, maybe people are right. Maybe that, these owners and whoever's in control of making sure that the betterment of the players are in the forefront really could care less about our lives and when the game's over. So it's very disheartening to know that these type of metrics and methods are still being used in 2021 to help players that really need that. So I'm glad that it was exposed, and hopefully that the guys that need the money but more importantly need the support moving forward get that.
Hey, man, Roy, what are your thoughts?
I mean, basically, I'm not surprised. I mean, from the advent from slavery on moving forward, every time we took a step forward, they pushed us back. Every time they put out a law, you can vote. Oh, but wait a minute, you can't vote because you can't sign your name. These processes were put in place for a reason. Now, yeah, we have to tear them down. We have to let everybody know. But every corner you turn, they're going to be there. And so it's up to us, and like guys like Sean and guys who blew the whistle, to point these things out. There are plenty more there. We can't just act like that. All this stuff didn't happen. Because basically they're trying to sit there to say, it's just like if your mother was a slave, you're a slave. Okay, we're past that. Now you're free. Okay, well you can vote. Oh, but you have to be able to write your name to vote. So these things keep going on, and then it happens in schooling. Brown versus Topeka, Kansas, separate, not equal, is equal. No, it happens in schooling, happens in medicine, and on down the road. So we can't be blind to it. We're going to see a lot more, in my opinion. We're going to see a lot more.
Well, I want to hear from both of you in regards to the whole John Gruden controversy and the emails that came out. First, of course, the racist email that came out. And then after that, you got other emails, and he was eventually fired. Wale, were you surprised by this at all? And the fact that he was able to stay in the NFL for so long, and there were reports of this, maybe his character in the past.
No, I wasn't surprised by the emails. What I was surprised, was the comments he made about the NFLPA's DeMar Smith, about the comments about his lips, and society and pundits, both black and white, rushed to his defense to, let's give him a second chance. But not until the homophobic and the sexual comments came about that the league, said, hey, enough is enough. I would have loved to have seen that when those comments about DeMaris's, features were talked about, that John probably should have stepped down and been forced to step down at that moment. So I'm not surprised. We're in a league where it's 75 to 80% African American, but if you look around, there's only one black African American president in the whole NFL, right? And there's no African American owners at all. So is it surprising? No. It's going to keep happening until we get diverse bodies in these seats that are having these conversations. And if you have more diversity around, these type of conversations, may still happen, behind closed doors, but on NFL property and NFL, emails, stationary stuff, those things will happen if there's enough people that are looking over and watching that are involved in these conversations.
Roy, what are your thoughts when you heard about what he said, especially the racist comments and the fact that some were even arguing to give him a second chance, but then he was fired after, he made homophobic and misogynistic statements. Okay, now let's fire him.
Well, I get it, but, I have to agree with Wale. You're going to hear this time and time again. These people are of our age, and they grew up a certain way. And if you were trained that way, it's hard to break it. It's up to us to help break it. I'm not even sure if, that's the answer, because if you flip him over and make him a champion for change, he might be one of our biggest players, and just because we're in a very sensitive situation in this country, that if you say something kind of off, whether it be black, white, gay, everybody jumps to arms. So but the problem is you have to pick and choose your fights. You just can't jump and yell wolf every time you think you see one. We have to pick and choose our battles. And if he's truly that type of person and you have enough to say, hey, that's that guy, then you're right. It's time to get him out of here. But if he turns around and says, look, I'm not that guy. I'm still that guy that tried to give, this guy a $30 million contract, have him do this, have him do that. Yeah, you broke into my private emails. Yeah, I might be the best guy altogether, but, maybe I can change. And everybody deserves a chance to change. So if you have him out there saying, look, I did this, I hone up to it, it's not right. And a guy like that who is well-respected, well-liked in the league, turn around and say, I made a mistake, maybe we can all learn from this. Because we're all at guilt at some point. We've all said some questionable things at some point. And it's a learning process. So, it's just my opinion.
Well, listen, Roy, and with that said, you entered the league in 1992.
Correct.
And things weren't as progressive as they are now as far as conversations surrounding race and racial equality. So can you describe what it was like being in the NFL back then as an African-American player?
I mean, it was a lot more raw. Coaches can get in your face. Players are getting in your face. I mean, you can get in their face. I mean, it was, you had to be a man. You had to man up. You got a lot of older guys. The youngest guy on the team, is a rookie, but the oldest guy could be 35, pushing 40. Whereas now at around 30, they're about done. So it's just that older mentality that, wherever they came from, you just can't expect them all to blend together. If you got, one guy from Tennessee that's, he grew up in Tennessee, and then you got a guy like me who's from New York City, there's going to be some words that are not going to be liked by each other, and they're going to be clashing. But hopefully that, you practice together, you eat together, you play together, that you start forming this bond. And when you do that, you start talking. When you start talking, you start understanding the next person next to you and realizing, hey, I just said something that's not too cool. I'm sorry, man. Maybe I could, I'm sorry. Can you at least teach me? I've had cats ask me, why is it we hear all these kids yelling out the N-word, and I can't say it. Good guy to ask. I will explain it to you, but I'm gonna be a lot more open and show you, hey, this is what was happening. We still have a problem in our own culture saying that word, and we're not helping the situation at all. So,
no, we're not.
Again, it starts with us. And then when we can just get it together and basically show, hey, we got our thing together. We expect you to get your thing together. Right. People will change. It's like a diamond. It's a piece of coal, time and pressure. And that's how we got to this point, time and pressure. And things are starting to change. And now the league is kind of like in the forefront. I mean, they were setting up programs, the legends. Our NFLPA is a lot stronger than it was before. They were trying to destroy it in the beginning. In 92, they had, the NFL was trying to destroy our league, our NFLPA, flat out. They tried to sign all their players to their labels and their card games and all that nonsense. And we had to take, everybody had to give up $5,000 or so every year because they knew there was going to be some fight for the CBA. Okay, and they tried to snuff it. So we go from that point to this point now. You start hearing Black Lives Matter and make a change. You see stuff on the fields, on the back of helmets. It's moving in the right direction.
That it is moving forward. In your eyes, you believe that it is moving forward. But I want to ask Wale this, because you spoke of the N-word. And last month, Miami Dolphins player Emmanuel Agba shared a message from a fan following a Sunday loss. He reposted the message captioning, quote, "I normally ignore stuff like this, but this is uncalled for." It's after a fan used the N-word over and over and over again on Twitter, upset because of performance in a game, and come to find out that fan happened to be an associate professor up in the Northeast. So, Wale, I got to ask you, the fact that it's still out there, you have fans calling out players like this using the N-word. I want to know, are we moving forward? Are we moving in the right direction when this is still happening? Is that what you experienced? And you didn't have social media like we have it now, but as a player, you're walking through the tunnel and people are shouting and yelling, talking about your mom and everything else.
Right.
So
no, I think at the end of the day, I think we are progressing because we're able to have these type of conversations where before, you either had to get into a fight or just really mind your business. But I think what's not changed over time is the sense of position where fans feel like they're entitled to say anything they want to say because they paid their dollars to come to a game or because they're a fan of a team. That's not the case, right? I'm a grown man. I've got kids, I'm married, family. Proud to be also from New York City myself, and never in life have I ever been would allow people to call me out my name or disrespect me. And just because you're into a sports team, that doesn't give you the right because you may have paid your hard-earned money to come to a game. But again, if you think about the way football is set up, it's kind of some of the same strategies that has always been in the past. And I hate to use this term, but it's always like entertain the brutes, right? Like you go out there and you entertain people, and it's like, okay, go ahead. Like they want to see people fighting to the death. But the truth of the matter is we're human beings like everybody else, and this type of rhetoric is uncalled for in the past, and it's still uncalled for now. It's just that with social media, it's rearing its ugly head more times than not.
Amen. Wale, Roy, thank you so much for the conversation. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but I want to thank both of you for the spirit of discussion because it's important. It just means a step forward, and it all starts with a conversation. Thank you both for joining me on the show.
Thanks for having me.
You got it, my brothers. And you can rewatch this episode on our Facebook and YouTube pages or on Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. I'm at Jawan NBC6, and you can also message us on social media if you have a story idea. And before we go, remember, education is the key to success. If you believe, you will succeed. We'll see you next time. Have a great week.